We'll do it live.
All right, so there's no one here.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you.
Oh, somebody is here.
As usual, I can't. There it is. Yeah. Muted.
Oh. All right, so we got people out there. I think we have one viewer according to
I see two.
Oh, 8. There's more. Hey, everybody! Welcome to the live chat for December. Let me introduce everybody we got here. Of course, myself, Jamie. We got Steve. Say hello, Steve.
Hey, everybody. Jamie is on location in a jungle somewhere.
Thank you. Yes. I tried to dress up my background a little bit better this time. So just threw some plants in there.
And I got
dress up a little more.
Of course, we have Chris with us today.
Hello. Woohoo! Yay.
Hey, Chris.
Brian, we have Brian, who has no webcam down in that third world country, so all you do is see his face whenever he talks.
Yes. Unfortunately, if I had a webcam, I wouldn't even stay connected. So
this is the AI version of Brian.
Yeah. I was about 90% sure Brian was a ventriloquist.
Can we get Brian to replace his picture with a chicken?
Ooh, that's a good one.
We might hear some chickens throughout this broadcast. And actually, we have a new member to the live stream. We have AC from Lords of the Dungeon with us today.
Hey, folks, how's it going? All right.
I was leaving a pause there so you could set up Steve. Aaron, we were talking about
you
it
haven't
already.
Introduced Steve, though.
I did.
I was the second person introduced.
Oh, were you? I wasn't paying attention.
So anyway, Aaron, I haven't seen you in quite some time now.
Yes, Steve, I missed you terribly.
Oh, man, thank you. But that's just because you do everything terribly.
That was a lot funnier in my head when I wrote it.
It was. I'm sure it was, Aaron. All right, so we don't have any agenda whatsoever out there, Cabalists. Thanks for joining in on the live chat. If you got any questions, throw it to us in the chat feed over there, and Steve's going to pay attention to it. Steve's face is half off the screen. His webcam's kind of falling off. But Steve's going to give us some questions. Steve, you got anything in there people want to talk about?
I do. Jaffa Waha is checking in from Sweden. I just want to throw that out there.
Hey!
Sweden. Awesome.
Yes.
What time is it in Sweden right now? Are you up in the middle of the night?
I'm sure he's typing right now. I will say, though, I enjoy the Swedish fish very much.
Hey, Aaron.
Yeah.
William says here, Lords of the Dungeon has inspired him to start role-playing again.
All right. That's what we like to hear. That's fantastic.
That delights me. It delights me when anything that we do like kind of exposes people to, a new kind of gaming or even a gaming, like you say, it inspired you to get back into it, something you haven't done in a long time. Get back into it like that. It makes it all worth it, right? Like spreading the joy all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Chris Miller, why is your hair not dyed yet? That was his goal, I believe.
Wait a second. Who said that?
Where was that?
A few people said it, actually.
Yeah, don't throw him under the bus. They said that was part of the Kickstarter was you dyeing your hair.
Oh, great. Well, I
dyed it white.
I can do that.
Yeah, you work from home. Go for it.
What color should I make it?
Pink.
Gray.
Well, it wasn't
pink. Make it stripes, like pink and purple stripes.
What?
It wasn't technically part of the Kickstarter. We mentioned on the show that we might do that, but I think for some reason Chris didn't want to do it, so we didn't put it actually in the Kickstarter. But I think you could probably convince Chris to do it.
Probably. As long as
I think next time we're together, we should just strap him down and spray paint his hair.
Well, we have an international crew here. We have Bart from Belgium.
Yeah.
We have Jaffa Waha from Sweden. So here's a question for Jamie.
Yo.
What is your favorite Euro of 2017?
Okay, so we're just talking about that in the episode that's coming up. We just recorded this. So what did I say? Oh, I know exactly what it is. Outlive. It was the post-apocalyptic worker placement type game where you go out on the board and you scavenge for goods in all of the cities and the countryside and all that stuff, and you kind of steal things from each other while you're worker placing. And then you go back at the next phase and you build your base. And you use all those resources to build rooms in your bases. You collect survivors to man those rooms. And then you can collect equipment and it's broken and you have to fix it with those resources. And you're trying to manage not allowing radiation to get into your compound. That is absolutely my favorite Euro that was put out this year. We played it like crazy, Brian. You saw it and you played it.
Oh, yeah.
At Origins, I think it was played like half a dozen times, and I kept going back to my room to get it for people. So
those
good.
are just the times I saw, and I kept trying to get into a game, and every time I saw people setting up and went to get in it, the game was like filled up. So I finally got in one like the last day or two before the con ended.
All right, here's a question. Hayden Van Rice is from Australia. And he's asking if you have any opinion on geography in games. Because in Australia, often in games like Pandemic, the whole continent is just one little dot on the world map. So I will say I've seen a lot of games with very strange takes on geography. Sometimes continents are misshaped. Sometimes they're like slightly off where they should be. A big one, I think, is Axis and Allies, because there's so much action going on in Europe, and it's tiny on that little map. Meanwhile, Africa is huge, and there's like 3 guys on there.
It's true. I never once thought about specific geography in board games. I guess really, when it comes down to it, if a designer is trying to design a good and balanced board game, they have to take some kinds of liberties like that to sort of balance out the way that everything's laid out, so to speak. Or the graphic design will be all lopsided, or you'd have too much focus in an area that would make it too powerful to control that area. I don't know. That's off the top of my head. I never once thought about it, but off the top of my head, that's probably what I'm thinking. Not that they're suggesting that New York and Baltimore and Boston are more popular than like Melbourne, because that's the only dot you have.
To be fair, they are in America, so you know.
Chris.
Well, they usually don't have any Canadian cities on any of these maps, do they? Well, maybe like Montreal.
That's not Canadian. That's Quebecian.
Okay.
I think what
Steve,
that
you're no
question
good at
was,
geography.
yeah, I think it highlighted how bad Americans are at geography. I think that's the point of that question.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. So,
Hey, go ahead, Steve.
Berkey says, Berkey
Berkey.
the beef jerky man says, what is your favorite Academy board games game? Mine is Mare Nostrum.
Oh,
Excellent. Excellent game. Love it.
I have a hard time deciding between Mare Nostrum and 1775. I think 1775 is an awesome territory control game, and I just think the mechanics of it work really, really well. But Mare Nostrum, that's like a big sprawling game. Got a lot of, it plays up to 7, I think, all the way up to having Atlantis thrown in there with the expansion. So that's a giant game. So I really like that. And I'm really excited about the Vikings game. I don't remember the numbers. It's like 8675309 Vikings or something.
Right. 818 or something.
Yeah, something like that. But that looks great. I haven't had a chance to try that one out yet.
Phil wants us to play Food Chain Magnate.
Well, I want to play Food Chain Magnate.
I do. Someone wants to send it?
I don't want to pay. I just looked at Amazon the other day. It was like $175 on Amazon. I didn't look anywhere else. So that's how much it costs, man. It's like really hard to get because it's really low print runs. So it goes out of print like really fast. So
I play Food Chain Magnate every day and I win real dollars. Woo.
that's true.
You win real pounds is what you win.
Oh, well, they're
Hey, do me a favor and take your webcam and just tilt it down a little bit because your chin and the bottom of your mouth is cut off.
You look like some kind of broken Muppet.
Is this better?
Yes, that's better.
Oh,
Beautiful.
God. Can we just turn his camera off?
Yeah, we can do that. I do have the control room here. I can
Hideous.
just delete him out of the whole thing.
I'm like Canadian now from South Park. Just top my head flops up and down.
So AC, I did see a question on here that I think is interesting for us, and I'm not. See, you're more on the role-playing game side. You don't know much of anything about the new board games coming down the pike and things that are just releasing and stuff. But there's a game called who asked this? Bart actually asked this one. What are our thoughts on Legacy of Dragonholt? And Legacy of Dragonholt is a new board game that Fantasy Flight just came out. That's sort of it's closer to a role-playing game than it is a board game, but still has board game elements in it. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure game, essentially. You go through the books, you have a map out on the table, and you move your guys around the map, and you make choices, and then do like dice rolls for different things. I don't know all of the details of it, and I have not played it yet, but I really think this one looks cool. I know Matt Evans from Board Game Replay, he was playing it and he was showing us pictures of it, and he was talking about how it kind of works a little bit, and it sounded like a lot of fun. It sounded like almost a role-playing game, but you didn't have to go through all of the character creation stuff and all of that to get into and play a game. It's like you can just sit down and start playing and get through this campaign just through these storybooks and choose your own adventure style. And I think it looks actually really cool. Is that something that you would be interested in, AC?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still like playing video games, even though I'm a role player. But you know, yeah, I say we give it a shot.
Video games, board games, dude.
Did I say video games?
Yes, you did.
Nice.
Freudian slip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get back to Fallout.
So,
Purple.
I want to hear your thoughts, though, AC, on Twilight Imperium 4th Edition, because
that's a good one.
you and I and our buddy Don and Mike, we played a 4-player game of it a couple Saturdays ago, last Saturday, as a matter of fact, Sunday.
Yeah.
And I want to hear your thoughts on that one, because you're not as close to the board game side. So I want to hear your thoughts.
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It's just a shame that it took like 6 hours to get through 2 turns.
2 turns. Come on, don't be hyperbolic. It was 4, almost. It was nearly 5 turns.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But it was like 4 hours to get through the first 2 turns. But I enjoyed that game so much. I was terrible at it. Like I came in last place, but I don't care. It was fun just building up my empire. And like Jamie, I know you always try to manipulate me in that game, which is fantastic. But I'm so dumb that it screwed you over too.
Hmm.
I wouldn't call you dumb. I would call you.
Okay, I'm
timid.
bad at playing Twilight.
Oh, you weren't
Imperium.
bad at it. You were timid. Like here's what happened. So we were going into this Twilight Imperium, and I start making deals with Aaron. Hey, let's make some deals. Let's like start trading some resources, some commodities and goodies, and we're talking to each other. And I'm like, I'll give you this card for that, and all this other stuff. Great. The other 2 guys are in between us, right? So I'm starting to feel the pressure from these 2 other civilizations, like coming at me. And Aaron, his ships are all flying backwards. They're going behind his home world to take planets, not coming towards me to help me out.
Hey, they were easy to grab. What do you want?
Hey, listen, sometimes you back the wrong horse.
I do want to say, I think it was funny that the last recording, this topic actually came up, and Aaron, you mentioned that Jamie always tries to manipulate you, and I'm pretty certain he mentioned that during the last recording.
Really?
He's like, I was working with Aaron, and you know how that is. So.
Well, speaking of Tony, nobody was, but this is a segue.
That was a terrible segue, Steve.
Oh, stop. Tony would have been here tonight, but he was recently crushed by a big pile of games. Don't feel too bad for him. He has only his shelf to blame.
Oh, my goodness. Steve, do you have those written down next to you?
No.
So you waste memory, like memorizing them?
I wouldn't say it's a waste, Aaron. Anyway, let's move on.
You wouldn't.
I love how Steve halts all progress of this live chat to tell a joke that we only snicker at.
That's right.
I'm not snickering at the joke. I'm snickering at the fact that he told it.
Hey, Jaffa Waha is leaving. See you later.
Have a good one.
Enjoy Sweden.
Take
For me.
care.
Sweet dreams in Sweden.
He's driving people away.
That's
Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
What are the questions we got here?
All right, let's see here. Will anyone be backing hate from Simon? And does anybody know what it's about?
Well, I know at least 2 people that are going to be backing it. That would be Jamie and Tony.
Yes. And I kind of do know what it's about. So it's based on a comic book series by Adrian Smith, who is the artist. And as a matter of fact, Adrian Smith is now, I think he's the art director of CMON. They hired him at the same time that they hired Eric Lang. So Eric Lang's, I think, their head of board game development, and Adrian Smith is now their art director. And Adrian Smith used to work for Games Workshop and a lot of other companies doing amazing artwork. But he has a comic book called Hate. And basically it's like these savage tribes. They're like Vikings, but they're way more barbaric and disgusting and horrible. And kind of the idea is that it's a 2-player game in which it's not just 2 players, because it's kind of done in a weird way. You play a 2-player game, and then another person comes in and plays against your tribe. So you're building a tribe. So I guess it's kind of like a campaign, almost like Warhammer 40,000. When you do a campaign in that, you have your army, you fight somebody's army, and then the next week you fight somebody else's army, and they fight each other the next week or whatever. So that's kind of, from what we understand, how this is going to work. And I know that one of the things that we talked about in the last show is that you can, when people fall in combat, you drag them off of the battlefield and take them back to your villages, and you can cook them in your oven and eat them, and you will generate resources. Or you can put them in your torture chambers and you can generate hate, which is some sort of resource that you also use for other things.
Yes, the Emperor and Darth Vader collect that too.
That's true. So it's a very barbaric combat 2-player campaign style game. There was an article that CMON just put up recently that we got some of that stuff out of. But I think it looks very different from a thematic standpoint, and from a way that the game's kind of going to play out. It looks a little different. So we'll see when the Kickstarter goes up if I actually want to back it, but arrows are pointing towards yes.
Jamie, check out the name of the guy from Hong Kong.
His name is Georg Wang, but he says it's actually George Wang, but Americans always pronounce it wrong.
Okay.
What?
I think he went to the Steve School of Comedy.
Oh, man. He should be much funnier then.
All right, George. I'm with you. Gotcha.
All right. Jamie, do you have any thoughts, or anybody else here for that matter, have thoughts on Nemesis, the new game from Awakened Realms? I have no thoughts on it because I'm not sure what it is.
Hey, you and I are in the same boat then.
Oh, good. Then I can eat you and we're lost at sea.
I can't remember which one that is now.
You don't want to eat me. I'm all stringing brains.
True.
Oh, I know exactly which one you're talking about. I was looking at this one the other day. It looks interesting. I don't know yet. I didn't look deep enough into it to actually really give it a fair shake and decide if it's something that I want to pick up or not. But it looked kind of cool. It's got like miniatures and like it's the one with the miniatures, and I think there's like an explorable dungeon kind of thing, like a space station or something like that. Looks pretty neat. I don't know. Don't have a lot of information on it yet, though.
All right, Jamie, this is solely for you. How much time in minutes is generally cut out of each episode editing?
Interesting. Well,
Most of Steve's joke.
well, sometimes.
That's gold.
It's not actually that much. Really, the bulk, and I'm not making a joke here, the bulk of the edits tend to be during the news when Tony's taking like 30-second breaks between sentences. You're all laughing, but it's the truth. Like, we'll sit here and Tony will be like, he'll be like, next up, we got.
That's about right.
You're channeling Tony wonderfully.
Some new Blood Angels are coming. And it's like pauses like that. And I'm like,
favorite ones are when he reads the title of the news piece and then has no idea what it's about. So he reads the title and then it's just pause.
Well,
I mean,
he
it's
has
not like-
he has to read the article that he's like, he actually pulls up the article and kind of glosses it over while he then explains it to us.
and I'm not, like I said, I'm not picking on Tony. I mean, it's just, his way. And he's reading the news and he's thinking about how he wants to phrase his sentences and things. So a lot of that gets cut out. So there's a lot of dead air that gets cut out there. The rest of the show is actually pretty It's pretty seamless. There's only a few times. If we go on for a really long time on a particular topic, I'll edit it. Like, for example, we talked about the loot box thing in the last episode, and that went on for like 20 minutes. And I chopped that down to like maybe 10, maybe. And it was because it was just too much. Like, it would have been too much overkill in that topic, even though there were some interesting things said. But I listened to it and I would cut out when we would repeat ourselves. And I would just say, okay, we already said that. We don't need to say it say it again. And then I'll just move everything, kind of arrange it so it makes a little bit more sense that way. But even that doesn't happen that often. So we usually record for about 4 hours to do a 3-hour show. And that's with, dealing with any sort of audio problems that Tony might have or I might have, or a piece of equipment's not working, so we have to fix it, and then we stop to go to the bathroom and get drinks and all this other different stuff. We talk for a while too, just off mics, like talking about things. So I would say I would probably cut out like 10-15 minutes of the show, and that's mostly dead air and things that aren't necessary for the show. If we stop for a minute and talk about something else, say like, okay, well, we want to talk about this stuff too, right? And yeah, all right, let's go back to it. And then I'll cut all that junk out.
It's because we're all consummate professionals and everything we say is gold.
Is that right, Aaron?
Yes.
It's because we've been doing it as long as we have. And when we first started, it was like a 6 to 8 hour endeavor to put this together. And
That's true.
We've refined our process so much that we've got a pretty good document thing going on that we all kind of put content into, and we just run down the document now, and we don't detail it out there. So we have those conversations about it sort of spontaneously, naturally the first time. And that's one of the biggest changes. We used to talk a lot about what we were going to talk about during the show, and it killed it because then it was not natural conversation. So
that's true. Very true. So Aaron said our comedy's like gold. I say it's more like gold-pressed latinum, which brings me to my next question for Aaron.
That's a brilliant segue. I was seriously hoping you were going to do this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, Aaron, are you interested in the upcoming Star Trek role-playing game?
Absolutely. And we already have the book.
Yeah.
And I was writing a one-off adventure because I wanted to review it for the podcast, but we kind of got wrapped up in the Fate system and the new game, so I haven't actually finished writing that yet. But it's got it's going to be an original series one-off adventure, and it's got all of the tropes that you're expecting to see. So it's going to have an omniscient being, and it's going to have somebody in a red shirt getting killed, et cetera, et cetera. It'll be epic, I promise.
You just gave away the plot to your adventure.
No, I didn't. It's in every plot.
Well,
how is he going to die?
I yanked my headphones out so I didn't get anything spoiled from an adventure.
That's why you did that.
I heard something about an omniscient.
Look, Jamie, just use your deflector dish.
Yeah, I'll shoot a reverse tachyon beam out at whatever Aaron puts at me, and I'm going to win.
Perfect. All right. Closing thoughts by Alexa. I've been hearing a lot of positive buzz about our Alexa jokes.
There's no jokes. That happened.
Yeah, but then we ragged on him pretty hard, right?
Yeah.
Someone here misses Computer Girl, Jamie.
I was thinking about Computer Girl just the other day, and I do miss her as well. We need to bring Computer Girl back onto the show. I'm going to do it. I'm bringing Computer Girl back. Whoever said that? Who was it? Chris?
Oh, let's see. Michael.
Michael, you did it. I'm going to bring Computer Girl back for the new year. Steve doesn't even remember what we're talking about.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, Computer Girl was awesome.
I like Computer Girl.
I liked it. She made fun of Vassal like every episode.
She sounded British.
She did.
Hey, it wasn't you. You can't control Computer Girl.
That's right. She's out of control.
All right, listen, we have Aaron Crossman here on the show with us right now. Are there going to be future crossovers with Lords of the Dungeon on the podcast?
Absolutely. We did it one time with Bender. Because I think Steve couldn't make it actually. So we asked Bender to do it. And that was because we actually had some time in advance to plan for that. If we know someone's not going to be there, we should have done it with Chris this past weekend. Why didn't we do that? The episode that we just did without Chris. I didn't even think of it.
Good question. I was there.
Yeah,
No,
the one before.
Where you were at
but-
Englestein's place.
That was our regular recording day. See, you just don't like me. You don't keep track of me.
But anyway, yes, I definitely want to have Aaron on, Bender, Jess, Jesco, whoever.
Ben the Stealer of Bag Lunches says, Bender's discount Steve?
Well, according to Tony, he'd prefer to have Bender on the show than Steve.
What?
Because Tony's obsessed with eating me.
Your ham hocks.
Mm-hmm. They're all mine.
All right, you got anything good for us over here, Steve?
I do. Somebody wants to know your cell phone number, Jamie?
No, thanks. You got my email address. Here's the reason. Like, it is not because I don't want to talk to anybody. It's because there's nothing I hate more than when my phone goes off. I have this weird pet peeve, other than people chewing, of my pants buzzing. If my pants buzz, I get very upset. Shut up, Steve.
Oh, shoot.
I try not to use my phone at all possible. I turn off all notifications. It drives me crazy.
All right, Chris Miller. John Paul asks, not counting the full froth you had at Gen Con, what is the newest brew you've tried?
Yeah, I was thinking about that question. I don't know. I have been on a kick with my standard Old Brown Dog lately.
It's Old Brown Cow in my book.
What would it be?
Well, while Chris thinks, I could show you mine.
All right.
This is the what I'm drinking right now. I've never had it before, and I have to say it is delicious. This is fantastic. This was given to me by Gil. He's a contributor to the Dice Tower. I think Board Game Breakfast. He's on Board Game Breakfast. He brought a whole bunch of beer to Beer Mongers and gave it to Steve and I. Delicious.
it's interesting.
I love it.
He's my
The guy
favorite
on
Brazilian.
Yeah, the guy on that bottle looks like Gil with a hat on.
Hey, it kind of does.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I had the brewer right. But yeah, a couple weeks ago I had the Ballast Point Victory at Sea Peppermint. And it was as gross as it sounds. I love me Victory at Sea, but the peppermint one, not
I don't know. Peppermint beer sounds like it might be good.
You can try it tomorrow.
Be like drinking a candy cane. I don't
know.
think so.
I like peppermint hot chocolate. I like peppermint coffee. Peppermint beer might be all right.
The Sriracha beer was much better.
I don't know if I'd like that.
sounds
Well, just like I told that guy at the truck stop, I'll try anything once. Brian,
Ugh.
do they make any kind of monkey moonshine down where you are?
Is
Well,
it made
so-
from chickens?
no, it's not made from chickens. No, it's actually kind of so part of the neat thing about the island is they make rum very, very cheaply. And as a matter of fact, behind our apartment, it's an old structure that's been here a long time. It's actually been here. It was the military commander's his personal home that looked out over there was like a logistics facility down the hill below us. And in the back, there were these two big, they're almost like giant bowls, and they use them to collect the syrup that they use to make the rum out of. So, and they're just overturned. They've been there for they're just weeds and stuff overgrown, but they're huge. So the rum on the island is really, really cheap. You can get a bottle for like $1 or $2 US. So, I mean, we're talking like nothing here.
Nice.
The other thing that they've got some brews, they've got a beer called Carib, which is, I think it's a lager. So the closest thing I can compare it to is it's kind of Yingling-ish, but not as flavorful. So it's a little bit more watered down, you know what I mean? Just a lighter flavor to it.
Well, Yingling does have a flavor. I'll give it that.
Yes, yes. See, I like Yingling, so that's me. You guys can keep your craft brews.
Michael over
I used
here.
to like Yingling, and then I tried other brews.
Yeah. So Michael asks, any further news on the Secret Cabal Con? I do. This is something that I want to do at this point. I'm not. I want to take care of all of the Kickstarter responsibilities for this year before I get into trying any new crazy stuff. But I think starting in 2018, I'm going to start investigating it. I already have a line on a convention center that wants to host it, actually, which it's out closer to Philadelphia. And I'm not sure if we're going to go there or not, but it is. They contacted me and said, "Hey, let's get something going." And I was like, "Cool, all right. Well, we'll at least look into it." So there's a line on something. So we do have. It's on the roadmap, so to speak. 2008 is going to be a figure out if we can possibly manage to do that kind of thing. Because I talked about it in one of the surveys that we sent out for Halloween for the contest, and asked, "Hey, if there was one, would you come?" And we got about, I would say, like 35% to 40%, close in that area, of people that said yes, they would come. And the people that said no, it was solely because it's too far away, right? Like, you got to travel, and that'd be kind of rough. But if we would do it, it would be something extremely small. When I say extremely small, it'd be somewhere between 500 and 1,000 people. That's what I would shoot for. I doubt we'd even get 1,000 people out of the gate, but who knows? I mean, every time we do like a meetup, we think we're going to have 700 people, and we get 1,000 people. We think we're going to have 1,000 people, and we get 25 or 1,200 people. So you never know. It might be more than we think. So I'm going to at least figure for about 1,000. But I don't have any of the details on that, and I haven't seriously explored it quite yet. But it's something I definitely want to do sometime in the future.
My favorite kind of cons are the ones where I get everybody's money and I assume a fake identity and move to Hawaii.
That is why Steve's not in charge.
We should do one of the cruise cons. Secret Cabal at Sea.
Yeah, I just call it Steve Con.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about how that's done. I know Jason from Dice Tower, he's the one that sort of worked that whole thing out. So if I ever wanted to do to follow up on that kind of thing, a Secret Cabal cruise, I would go to Jason and say, like, how you do it.
All right.
Oh God, Mitchell, that's awesome. The Secret Cabal.
Yeah. Oh, that would be great. Steve, you got any questions for us up in here?
Yes. Let's see here. Somebody would like a board game con near the Great American Beer Festival, which I think is a great idea. I'm not sure where that is, though.
If we had a convention, it would pretty much be a beer convention as well.
Yeah.
All right.
The point would be making sure that there's pubs nearby and that the convention center allowed us to bring the beer to us in the convention center. That would be one of the because World Board Gaming Championships that used to be in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, about 25 minutes away from us. It moved out closer to Pittsburgh now. But in years past, they were a convention where you could just bring beer, man. I'm telling you, Bonacore, seriously, Bonacore had a booth at the World Board Gaming Championships. And since it was so close, I'd always go up there just to hang out with him a little bit and talk to him. And after he shut down his booth for the day, he had a cooler on wheels with a handle that he would wheel over to the gaming area, and he would pull it open, and it was full of beers, and everybody would just grab beers and start drinking in the gaming. Because the Lancaster host that used to have it didn't care. It was like okay for them, sure, go bring beer in it. And if we had a convention, I would want to make sure that that was part of it, that it was cool to bring some drinks in.
Well, hey, everywhere I go, it's cool to bring drinks in. Just don't tell the owners.
That's true. We used to do that at Origins.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So
We
we
used to.
no hiding the growlers under the table and using the red party cups to pour into.
We had Subway cups. We went to Subway and like got a bunch of their cups. That's what we drank.
Let me have 5 waters. They're like, what?
Man. I remember I did a stealth mission into the Red Roof Inn we were staying at to make off with a bunch of their cups from the breakfast nook. Good times. All right, so Mateo has a board game question, which we'll throw this out here. So, Jamie, this is, I guess, targeted at you because you're in the know more than I am anyway.
All right.
And I'm sure this is opinion piece, but the Dice Tower had a copy of Rising Sun, and Mateo's wondering why Simon didn't send copies to top reviewers like us in order to keep the buzz going. Why don't publishers make more use of our influence?
Well, I will say this, that you're referencing Simon specifically. I will say this, Simon is by far, Simon and Jamie Stegmaier from Stonemaier Games are the best when it comes to that. I mean, they make sure that everybody has everything that is going to use it, right? And so they're really good about, you know, sending review copies and stuff. Simon specifically, I mean, they send things that I didn't even know that it existed, and all of a sudden there's this box at the door. So Simon does that. Now, as far as Rising Sun goes, and many of these games that people get like really, really early on, the reason is that these publishers they'll do a print run, right? And it's in production, but before that, the real game goes into production, like the real full, you know, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 run, they will always make like 10 copies. Or like 5 to 10 copies, and then they'll send those to specific people. And usually it's in-house people, right? So for example, when we did the Godfather back with the tabletop showcase, we made sure that we got some of those early copies. So they don't just willy-nilly send those out to anybody. You kind of have to specifically request it. And I myself don't like requesting copies of things very often. I mean, I'll be honest, like probably well over 50, 60% of the games that we talk about on the show I've purchased, because I don't go overboard. Like, I want to make sure that we're going to use the stuff that we get. Now, Rising Sun, we would have definitely used that, but I didn't think to ask for it. I don't know. I didn't know that they were giving out copies at that time. And
well, all right, we have an update here. Trevor and Ben both said that somebody at Gen Con won Rising Sun and lent it to the Dice Tower.
That could be.
The Dice Tower said that in their review.
That's true. And actually, our buddy Don, one of his friends, actually one of those copies too. So at Beer Mongers one night, a bunch of guys were playing Rising Sun. I was already in a game, so I couldn't get in on it. But nice. I could have actually borrowed that copy if I wanted to at that time. I could probably still do it, I guess, because he's probably on to the next game by this point.
That could be.
But that's good. That's a good point, Trevor. It's good to know.
All right. Matt has noticed Brian has mastered the art of being a statue. Good work, Brian.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
5-star ventriloquist.
It's a statue that looks like him 5 years ago.
That's how good he is.
Time traveling. So, has anyone played Clans of Caledonia? Mitchell wants to know.
I have not. It looks great. I've heard a lot of great things about it, but I haven't gotten it yet.
All right, we had an earlier question. A gentleman likes to play X-Wing with his son, but it's frustrating to keep up with all the rules errata. Do you have any suggestion on other mini games they should check out?
Like X-Wing?
I would assume with less errata, like the rules are great and you don't need to look things up, is what my interpretation.
Well, okay, so Privateer Press just put out a new version of War Machine called, what's it called? Iron Company, I think, which is a low model count miniatures game. So you just basically have like one unit and a couple of heroes and a couple of warjacks. So you got like maybe like 5 to 10 characters on the board, 10 characters, something like that. So it's kind of got that X-Wing vibe where you have small model count. And Privateer Press is really awesome about doing good rules. Now, their Mark III rules were awful, but it isn't that they broke the game. I guess maybe they did break it. I don't know. Like I didn't play Mark III, but a lot of things that I heard, Bender was hated it because the army that he built was no longer valid, or at least to him it wasn't valid. But you know, I've heard a lot of bad things about it. But historically, they do excellent rule sets. So I would check out Iron Company. You can check out Necromunda. which is from Games Workshop, which just came out a couple of weeks ago. That's another small model count game that I think it does have complex rules, and there probably will be an errata at some capacity, but it's not that big. I mean, you look at the 40K errata, that's got some stuff in there, but it's not really that terrible to play the game and go through the errata and make sure everything works. So Necromunda might be a good one too.
Now, David Vila in chat recommends the Wings of War airplane minigame.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually recommending the one that we talked about in our recording, which is the War of the Worlds and the World War II planes.
Yeah.
So
what's that one called? That was called Triplanes and Tripods and
Biplanes and tripods.
That's it. Yeah.
So, Jamie, speaking of Necromunda, you've played it. Fahid Malala would like to know what your rating is.
My rating?
Yes.
Oh, well, I loved it. I thought it was terrific. It's very, very similar to Shadow War Armageddon, which is the exact rules from Necromunda before. I loved it. I thought it was great. And I think it's a great starter box because it doesn't have the it's a little bit simpler because you don't have the 3D terrain in the main box. You just have on the board. It's the underhive. So you're going through tunnels and things underneath the city. So it's really kind of not too terrible to get into if you're a miniatures gamer. You can sort of get through the rules pretty easily. The miniatures are fantastic, amazing. Like, they're great miniatures. And the game was tons of fun. And the customization of your factions and all, you can put different guns. You could, I mean, like I said in the show, there's like 10 different mohawks you can choose for your guy. So, I mean, the customization of the miniatures is off the charts. I don't know. Ratings, I would throw it at around a 7.5 out of 10. How's that sound?
All right. Sounds good to me.
Steve, you should bring up Andrew's question.
I will, Chris. Thank you. So, Andrew asks, what is your ratio of game time to family time? It sounds like you guys host or attend board game night every night. What do your wives think of your hobby? Take it away, Chris.
Well, we kind of arrange our schedule around, I know every other Tuesday we have beer mongers and Wednesdays is the game night. So I try to get out one night a week and pick one of those two. She's not really a gamer, but I think her biggest complaint is the amount of stuff in my closet that has now exploded in my guest room. That's
right.
That's about it.
So for me, I get some gaming time in with the family, usually the wife. My kids are frankly more interested in video games, which is cool because I can play that with them too. And then they don't have little pieces to lose with the video games. So that's a bonus, right?
Yeah. My daughter actually just started really wanting to play games now. So we played Ice Cool again the other day. A couple of the brain games, kids games, and we played that Bling Bling Gemstones game, which I had to ask Kabbalas what the name of the thing was. It's all in Korean.
I can't wait to take her on a Twilight Imperium. That's going to be fantastic.
It was.
Nice.
I don't listen to you.
Yeah, you don't.
Chris,
right.
Somebody wants your video of the vortex in the closet. Come on now.
Gave me a picture on Facebook of my exploded one. But yeah, it's a mess right now.
Listen, this upset me because Chris was like, I'm just cleaning out my closet. I'm like, dude, we didn't even do the video yet. You got to put it all back in there. Put it all back in there so we can do the video.
I forgot about the video, but yeah, it's still suitably messy. It'll still look good. It's actually, it's probably even worse now because it looks like my closet board games all over the guest room. Like they're on the bed, along the wall, they're everywhere.
Oh man, get the Crisco out, Miller. You got to shove them all back in there.
Oh, Matt's talking about Howard Stern. He wants to know, Jamie, if we would, if we could play a game with him for 4 hours, what would we play? And I can tell you right now, huh?
With Stern?
With Stern, I can tell you, I wouldn't want to play any game.
None. Never. I would never do that.
And he would just see it as a waste of time, and I'd feel horrible.
That's absolutely right. Basically, he would play a game with us. He'd be angry about it, and then he'd go on the show and say that we're a bunch of losers.
Losers, exactly.
One of my favorite things on the show was when one of the guys on staff was playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they were trying to understand what Dungeons and Dragons was. They didn't. These people are out of it. The Stern Show people are completely out of it. They're on a different planet, so they didn't know what Dungeons and Dragons even was. So they were trying to understand what it was, and it was amusing. And even Jon Favreau, the director of Iron Man, was saying he was trying to explain it to Howard, and Howard just wasn't getting it.
I loved one of my other favorite ones was when Wolfie, the guy who goes out to places and does interviews, went to a LARP. And actually, Brian, you went to Narrow. It sounded like they were actually at Narrow because it was in Upper Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think they were at Narrow.
Oh my goodness, it was the funniest thing. If you can find it on YouTube, watch and listen to this because wow. Uh-oh.
So,
somebody?
are we still
Steve
talking
fell
about
asleep.
Stern?
Steve fell asleep over there.
No, I had to blow my nose. I'm still a little sick. I don't want to go on the camera.
Oh.
Anyway, listen.
Well, thank
I
you
wouldn't
for
wanna
muting
play
it.
a game with Stern either, because if he didn't like it, he'd be bitching about it the whole time.
Yeah.
All right. Kurt says, my 6-year-old and I play King of Tokyo, One Deck Dragon, and now Imperial Assault with the app. And that's
Dungeon
awesome.
there, Steve.
Huh?
That's Dungeon, not One Deck Dragon.
Whoops. One Deck Dungeon. Anyway, that's awesome. I wish my 6-year-old did that. My kids want to play Minecraft and Roblox and Animal Jam.
I'm just glad I only know what one of those is, and I'm kind of sad that I do.
Hey, Aaron plays Minecraft with Jesco.
Really?
Heck yeah, we have our own server. Yeah.
What do you build over there, Aaron?
Yeah, you guys broing out?
What? Broing out
You broing out
On-
your Minecraft server?
on Minecraft?
I logged onto that server once and I was like, this is for losers.
Yep.
Not here.
Yeah, he's going back to
Because you
Bling
couldn't
Bling
figure it
Jetstone.
That's right.
Oh, man.
I'm going back to Stardew Valley.
All right. So I'm seeing some requests for us playing video game. Good Lord. Let me start this over again. I'm seeing
please
requests
do.
for us playing board games on video.
We get
So-
that request so often at this point because a couple of, I don't know, it was about a month ago I put out a video saying like I wasn't digging doing the video reviews. So I started doing a video blog and everybody's saying that that's great now. But when I asked in that video, I was asking what people suggestions, what do people want to see? There's so many suggestions of do like a video of you guys playing board games. And the answer is at this point, it's almost like we got to do it because so many people are asking for it. The problem is the logistics of doing that are a little difficult currently. I mean, these are the microphones that we have that we use, and it might be a little difficult to put those in front of you and play a board game around them. So I have to get lavalier mics for everybody to do that. So that's one thing I'm looking into. And again, I want to get past the Kickstarter stuff, like all of that responsibility, which will be by the end of this month. Then I'm going to start looking into the new things we're going to do. And I really, really, really want to get the other guys involved in video more. But then in that case, we have to work around schedules, right? Because, I'm sitting here doing this stuff. I can go over there and turn on a camera all day long. But, Steve goes to work and has 3 kids, and Chris, he works at home now, so he can come over in the middle of the day.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Yeah, just
And
don't
really-
tell the boss.
Really,
Ask your boss if you can come over and do some board gaming.
Yeah, Jeff, there you go. I gotta go play some board games instead of actually doing work. Is that okay with you?
Well, so if you're okay with it, Chris, like none of the Cabalists know who your boss is now, actually, if you want to tell them.
Yeah, I'm actually working for Jeff Engelstein, which is pretty rad. Doing a short contract now, and we'll see.
and the good news is I have a face for video, so
Yeah, so do I, Steve.
it's
Look
a
at
win
my
all
face.
around. Brian did too much Botox down there.
Yeah, see, I would actually love to get into doing some video stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be back in the States for another year, and it's just not realistic.
Aaron, is there a coworker of yours in chat right now?
Yes. Claude stopped by to say hi.
Ah,
How's it going, Claude?
waiting to see how what you do in your nerdy world.
Yeah. Oh, he hears about it. He knows.
Well,
It's
Aaron
all
needs
good.
to cut through a little bit. It's hard to trample over Steve and I while we're talking here.
That's right.
Speak up, Crossman.
Sorry. Now I forgot what I was going to say. See what you
Of course you did.
see how easily intimidated he is? That's why Jamie
Yeah.
manipulates him in board games.
Oh, I manipulate everybody, Brian.
All right, guys.
I got Steve. I got Chris eating out of the palm of my hand.
What are you talking about? I just never listened to you.
Chris
You
eats
never
out
listen
of
to
any
anybody.
palm in front of him. He's like a horse.
Yeah.
He'll just follow you, follow you to the next village if you have something in your palm.
Yeah. So for the request for videos of the chickens, I've got there's 40 of them. They wander around in packs of about a dozen, hopping between yards.
You got an
Sure.
iPhone, right, Brian?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll
All
try.
right, well, go down and take some video of it. Send it over to me. I'll do a chicken special.
Yeah, dude. That'd be awesome.
chickens.
All right. This
We
is for
did
everybody.
Yeah, a video of Brian with the chickens carrying the
Oh, no,
chickens around.
They run away. You can't get close to them.
We'll chase them around like Rocky. That'll be a good video. I guarantee you. People will
Brian,
like it.
you just need to put on a chicken suit.
Oh, I never thought of that, Steve.
I thought it was pretty obvious, but whatever. Give it a shot. So here's a question for the group here. Do you guys, this is from Mark, do you think the board game industry is at its peak right now? Or do you think it's still on the rise? Will it fall back?
No, it's not at its peak. It's just going to keep getting better and better.
I agree with Brian. It absolutely is not at its peak right now. There are so many people out there that are, I really think that it's just now starting to seep into the mainstream of society. You're looking at PAX, for example. PAX, when I went to PAX, there were so many people there that weren't in the board game community. They were just learning about board games and they were just starting to get into them, and they were all over the place. You could tell all these people were brand new gamers. Now maybe brand new as in for a couple of years now they've been into it, but they really didn't get deep into it. And this was their first experience with getting deep into it. You look at even what's their name? Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell the other day. They put up that video on that one website, Omaze, where they're doing a charity game night. It's a double date game night thing where if you donate money to the charity, they do a lottery and they pull you out. You get to fly to there and go to their house and play Settlers of Catan with them, and they'll bake you cookies and stuff. So I mean, these famous people are now sort of in the the mainstream talking about it. And you look at things like Critical Role with Matt Mercer and how widespread that role-playing games and D&D are right now. I mean, we're right on the cusp of something big happening. I think that it can't last forever, of course, but I think with the internet being what it is, because 10, 15, 20 years ago, the internet wasn't really a driving force like it is today. And bubbles have armor around them now called the internet, where people who still like stuff can get together and talk about it. So I think it's going to be a lasting thing, and it's only going to get bigger. Because there's so many people talking about it now, so many mainstream avenues dealing with it. It's going to get bigger.
We talked a little bit about this on the show, the last recording, with GW working to get some of their IP into the video gaming world. And that exposure, I think those two markets, I'm a big video gamer and a board gamer, tabletop RPG player. Aaron's and Steve are both the same. I think Chris buys everything on Steam, but doesn't
Yeah, he does.
more than 10 minutes. So we all grew up in that generation where we were gamers anyway, and we didn't get into board games until we were really in our early 20s. I mean, that was really where it took off for us. And I almost wish I was in the generation right now that was just getting to the point where this is not. It's just going to get better.
Brian, I wish I was 12 years old right now.
Oh, me too.
I think being 12 years old right now would be the greatest thing in the entire world, because I would be hungering for more board games and more role-playing games and coming in and I'd be so happy. And I would have all summer long to sit around and play board games with Steve.
Yeah, you'd have all the time in the world to do it.
Yeah.
I'd be making millions off my Twitch channel.
Yeah, right. You would.
Yeah. So David mentioned the nerd culture in general is a gold mine, but Netflix has the show coming out with Will Smith as a modern day cop, and then he's got the orc partner.
Yeah,
I
that looks
saw
so
that.
cool.
Like that's
great.
coming out. I mean, like all of this awesome stuff. I mean, people our generation are just all the boomers are about to retire. All the old people that don't understand games. Not all of them are this way, but the vast like trying to explain games to my father just doesn't work. Like he just doesn't get them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Yeah, and
we're
that's
all-
weird. My dad's 70-something. He has an Xbox One.
Really?
Yeah. I
What does
saw
he
him in
play,
the
Steve?
basement. He's had these like racing games. I don't know. Not
Hmm.
stuff I'm into.
You never liked racing games unless the cars had guns. I
Right.
remember that.
Destruction Derby.
Right.
Excellent racing game.
Yes.
It is funny. We talk about that regularly on the show that Steve wants nothing to do with a board game that has cars in it unless the cars have guns. Aaron and I have been hearing this ever since we were kids because we would play like some sort of like, what was that? Gran Turismo.
Gran
or
Turismo.
something.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Steve's like, why would you want to play this if you don't have guns or missiles?
Who cares if he could drive in a circle better than somebody else?
He liked Twisted Metal. We used to play Twisted Metal, the three of us.
Oh, that was a fun game.
Great game. I tried to play
Destruction
that
Derby.
again,
Yeah.
and it looks like one giant pixel on the screen. It's awful. I was like, I remember playing it, and I'm like, oh, cool, ice cream truck. I see it now. I'm like, what's this big ugly box?
Yeah, graphics were a lot better back in the day, weren't they?
They were. I don't know. I don't get it.
It degraded over time somehow.
Yeah. Maybe my eyes are getting old.
Just like the rest of
What is he doing?
I'm emphasizing my eyes.
you were doing it in a very scary way.
That's what you do with your eyes, Aaron. You stare with them.
He's got crazy eyes, is what he's got.
That's right. Crazy eyes that don't work too good.
yeah, this live stream is about to turn into like a murder mystery.
Right,
We
exactly.
know who the killer is.
There's not going to be any mystery behind it. It's
Oh. You know,
That's no fun. You have to pretend it wasn't me.
like, you know, if there was ever a murder in our group, every single one of us would turn and look at Steve.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
it you?
And that's why it wouldn't be me, because I'm not dumb enough to kill one of you. Because you all look right at me.
All right, we only have a couple minutes left here on the chat. Any other questions we want to throw out there, Steve?
I don't know. I've been staring at the camera. Hang on.
Yep.
I've been giving it my eyes.
Oh my God, we're getting spammed.
Who's
Nerd
spamming us?
culture's the new gold mine. I agree with that. Let's see. You know, Tool, greatest artist ever, says Scott Nunemaker.
Oh yeah, Ian's there. Oh,
That's right. Dating for sex asks, why do cats purr? I don't know.
dating for sex.
I don't know. Let's go. Oh, man.
We have here, have any of us played Mystery Motive for Murder? Unfortunately not. Is that like, what kind of board game is that? Is that a, has anybody ever heard of that one?
I have not
Apparently,
heard
it's really boring if you play it with me.
Yeah.
So I'll throw one out here while Steve's taking a look. So Alan Marcus asked, what's the oldest game that I've played recently? And I play Alhambra probably once a month. And I think that's the oldest thing I've played.
That's a good question.
It is a very good question. I can't think of what is the oldest game that I played recently. I think well, I just got La Havre because
I know
Chris,
the answer, Jamie.
what's that?
What's that police game where we're following the footsteps?
Police Precinct. We played that. Yeah.
The footstep one.
Oh, the footstep one. Oh, that's not that old. That's Stop Thief.
Oh,
It
But that's a
seemed-
reprint. It kind of doesn't count. We played the reprint
Hmm.
that came out this year. But I just bought La Havre specifically because Chris said that he wanted to play it. And then every time a game comes up that he wants to play, I suggest it. He says no.
Well, why doesn't he buy it then?
Play.
Like, why are you buying games he's suggesting?
Because I
Sounds
wanted
smart
it.
to me for
because
Chris.
he wants it, and it's a good excuse.
Makes sense.
Yeah, Alhambra's a classic. It just keeps coming, and it's one of Taylor's favorite games. She loves Alhambra and Dominion. So we throw an expansion in and just keep playing. It's awesome.
Hector the Turtle says that he just got a copy of Puzzle Strike for $6 Black Friday. That is a steal. I love Puzzle Strike. That is a terrific game. You guys have played this before, I'm pretty sure, right? That's the one where you have the little, almost like poker chips, and each poker chip has an ability on it, and you buy them off of the market, and you throw them in your sack, and then at the beginning of every turn, you pull out a bunch of things from your sack, like a deck building game, and you use them to fight the other guys. It's like crashing gems. Like, I don't know, it's some kind of like anime thing. I don't understand it, but like you're shooting gems at the other players and like hurting them, and you're trying to fill them up with gems or something. But it's a terrific game. It's fantastic. I never in a million years would have expected that I would like Puzzle Strike. But when I played it, I was like, wow, that's terrific. And it's a good buy. $6 for that?
Yeah, man, that's great.
That's a lot of content for $6. You're going to like that.
Was there only one expansion for that?
I don't know. I do have another expansion, but it's like the expansions is just not really an expansion. It's like you buy the game again with all different stuff in it, right? So you can buy the expansion as the base set if you want, because it gives you everything you need.
Dating for Sex is back and wants to know how to bake sweet potatoes.
Ooh, put them in the
oven. All right, guys. Well, let's do one more question. Steve, find us a good question and we'll answer it, and then we'll head out for the evening.
All right. Let's do it. Somebody's requesting words of wisdom. Tony's not here, though, so I don't know. All right. Puzzle Strike.
Steve, I already answered that.
We just
Whoops.
that one. Where were you?
You're right. You're right.
He was giving eyes to the camera again.
Good grief.
I was just seeing if you're paying attention.
Are those headphones on?
Hello? Hello? So, somebody brand new to Warhammer, and this is hot right now. GW's profits are shooting up. Everybody's loving it. If you're new to Warhammer, but you feel overwhelmed by the lore, what recommendations would you have on getting your feet wet?
Actually, I think I can take a stab at that one, because I am new to Warhammer. Like with this new version that came out, the guys just got me into it. And
be careful, Aaron. You usually miss when you stab things.
That's terrible. Where are I? Oh, yeah. So for the to start out, honestly, just hit up the Games Workshop site. Like, they have a great beginner background, like just a quick high-level overview of the history and everything, and it was a great place to start. And it gave you just enough information that then you can go look up the details that you're interested in.
If you do get the Dark Imperium box set to start off with, that comes with the Death Guard and the Primaris Space Marines. It comes with the hardbound rule book. At least 2/3 of that book is lore. And if you start at the beginning of that, it teaches you everything very simply in like 5 or 6 or 10 pages. The rest of it, you don't need to know everything about it, but that gives you such a grasp on what's going on. Really, it's not, there's so much to it, but you don't need to know everything about it. You don't need to know the nitty gritty. You don't need to read all the novels to understand what's going on. Like Bender, he went through the whole Horus Heresy, and he knows what every character does and what every battle happened on every planet. And that's awesome, but you don't need to know that stuff to understand the game. If you read each one of the individual factions, like the 1 page or a page and a half of lore on those characters, you'll get a vibe of what the state of the galaxy is. And another thing I recommend is trying a bunch of video games, because Steve, I think this is a way that you learned most about Warhammer. I did. Yeah, by playing, Dawn of War, and other video games like that, because just going through those missions, you kind of get an idea of what it's like to play those different factions and a little bit of the lore.
Absolutely, and they bring out new races, and they teach you about the chaos. They come out of the warp and all that stuff. So yeah, it's good. That's good. Yeah.
And to start off, getting into it very lightly, I mean, they got the First Strike box, and they got the I think it's No Fear box, or 2 super inexpensive starter boxes just to at least learn the game. So getting into the game's not really that difficult anymore, and the rules are so simple it's not funny anymore. It's really just the individual model rules that are difficult now. But lore, don't be scared by the lore. Like, I was scared by the lore when I first got into it, and I just kind of like eventually figured it all out throughout all of the stuff that I've read and done with it. So it's not too bad. It's more daunting than it really is.
All right, so let's wrap this up. I do have words of wisdom for you.
All right.
No.
Are you ready?
No.
If at first you don't succeed, don't try skydiving.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
I'm trying to laugh. I can't.
You're trying to put on a happy face
Yeah,
for it.
I am.
but
I'm
you just
trying.
can't.
It's not working.
Aaron, go look in the mirror.
All right, that worked.
All right, guys. All right, Cabalists, thanks so much for joining us here. This will be up on YouTube, so if you can't get it, if you didn't get it the first time, you'll get it later. We'll be back in January with another live stream chat event with whoever we can get involved. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you pretty soon. This week, Lords of the Dungeon, check it out. It's coming out on Wednesday. And, of course, the Christmas episode comes next week. And let me say, everybody out there, if you want to get involved in the big Christmas contest, make sure that you go to thesecretcabal.com/Christmas2017. Just got to give us your name, your email address, and your shipping information. When you're entered to win, you get to pick one of those prizes. And
that's right.
That,
and then
happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Yep. Happy holidays.
Good night, folks.
January 16th is my birthday. We should have another contest where people send me prizes.
Of course, Steve.
We'll get right on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Finally. See you later. Thanks for coming.
Night, folks.
Night.